Hello, everybody. David Schuster here. Donald Trump has just reminded all of us again that he is a threat to democracy. In a speech, Trump renewed his pledge to pardon the January 6th rioters.
The moment we win, we will rapidly review the cases of every political prisoner unjustly victimized by the Harris regime, and I will sign their pardons on day one. I will sign it on day one.
Donald Trump's extremism is not new, but his doubling down on pardoning his supporters who stand convicted over January 6th should serve as a wake-up call to all of us. And Trump's efforts may not be the long shot that many of us had hoped. A new national poll by the New York Times and Siena College shows the Republican presidential nominee leads Vice President Kamala Harris by 1 point. A month ago, Trump was trailing. The swing indicates that the Harris honeymoon is over, and Donald Trump still has a decent chance to win in November. Democrats, of course, are concerned. Many conservatives are now celebrating how the race seems to have turned. One thing is clear. Both campaigns still have a lot of work to do before Election Day. Polling data indicates that Harris is being weighed down by some of the more unpopular policies of the Biden administration. Recently, Fox News host Kayleigh McEnany suggested that Harris needs to create some distance.
Her task tomorrow night, I would say this, the election is Trump's to lose. Tomorrow night is a must win for Kamala Harris. She must separate herself from Joe Biden. NBC says she's going to provide some daylight. Cut your losses and run. Your job's not to preserve a legacy that doesn't exist. Right. It's to differentiate yourself.
Differentiate yourself. Well, that has been the Harris challenge ever since President Biden withdrew and endorsed her. Now, I'm not sure I agree with McEnany's claim that the election is Donald Trump's to lose. Presidential elections are often a referendum on the current administration. However, the Harris campaign has done a fairly effective job so far of making this more of a choice election over Donald Trump with all of his baggage, as opposed to a referendum on the Biden-Harris administration. And Donald Trump's instability and lack of discipline has helped. Still, for Kamala Harris to win, she still needs to show voters, especially younger ones, that she offers a fresh path forward. Harris needs to convince Americans that she represents governing change, not just from old to young or from traditional white leadership to the first African-American woman who can win the presidency, but from establishment to something of an outsider. This is challenging, of course, for Harris, given her role in the Biden administration, but she has to find a way to strike a reasonable balance. Recently, NBC's Meet the Press featured a segment on what younger voters want in the next presidential administration, underscoring the demand for change. Watch.
I think it should be across the board. I think when it comes to Congress, they also need age limits. We have several people on both sides of the aisle who I think belong in a nursing home at this point.
A candidate that is almost 80 years old has no idea what it's like to be in my shoes.
And the number one issue they say they care about right now?
The economy. I hate to say it, but I am living paycheck to paycheck.
I still have to work a second job to pay my rent.
Young voters put inflation and cost of living as their most important issue, followed by threats to democracy and abortion. The youngest generation of voters ready to make their voices heard this election.
My vote matters 100%. I'm excited to vote, and I don't think this election could be any more important.
It is interesting to hear that even among younger voters, the number one issue is the economy. Now, despite the Biden-Harris administration's successes in creating more than 17 million jobs, keeping unemployment at low levels, and triggering stock market record highs, polling data shows Kamala Harris is trailing Donald Trump on the economy by at least 10 points. This is largely due to the inflation of the first 2 years of the Biden-Harris administration. Inflation is now dropping fast and the economy is still strong. And there is a good argument to be made that Donald Trump's business success through the decades has relied on flim-flam and help from multiple bankruptcies. Still, Trump has had decades to promote himself as a billionaire and underscore his alleged economic success. And that perception is not going to be erased in just a few months of a presidential campaign. So Donald Trump leads Harris in the economy, making him close to even with her in voting polls nationally and in key battleground states. A few things to keep in mind, however. In 2016, Donald Trump won by just 70,000 votes in the swing states that decided the election. He lost the popular vote overall. In 2020, Joe Biden won the popular vote by 7 million votes, but won the swing states by small margins. 2024 will likely be the same. And at this point, approximately 15% of the electorate, they are still undecided. So there's still some room for the numbers to move around. And Kamala Harris is in a better position than Donald Trump. No matter what you think of Donald Trump, Trump is a known commodity. He's been running for president for 9 years. Harris is a comparatively blank slate. More than a quarter of the voters in the New York Times poll said they want to know more about her. And Harris has already made gains with younger voters, voters of color, and independent voters. Polls show many voters are more eager to hear about Kamala Harris's plans for the future than they are to hear from Donald Trump. Also, the Harris Walls campaign, it's better organized and more disciplined. And Kamala Harris, on paper and in real life, is a better candidate. She is relatable, and her room for growth far outpaces Trump's room. So yes, the race could be close, but Democrats led by Kamala Harris are in a better position to win than Republicans led by Donald Trump. I'm David Schuster. Thanks for joining us.
If you enjoyed this video, that's because of our members. They make us independent, they make us strong, and they make us honest. Become a member today by hitting the join button below.